Alright, so I've done this job a million times. I figured it would be a good video to make, how to take off an axle. I've done this plenty of times on that car over there. It's gonna work for 7th gen Civics, RSX, probably 8th gen Civic. This one I'm gonna use, jack stand, fucking breaker bar, pry bar, ratchet with the 19 with an extension for the wheels. I'm gonna use 19 and 22 to take off the strut bar. Take off the strut bolts, sorry. And then 10 and a 12 in case I need to move the ABS sensor and the brake line. I don't know if I need to do that, but that's pretty much gonna cover it. You wanna have a safe working environment, you know? Probably don't want cars flying by. So this looks pretty safe. Let's get to work. I'd say first thing you're gonna wanna do is probably crack the axle nut. Right there, this guy right here. If you have aftermarket wheels like me, you don't gotta do anything, just stick it in and crack it. But if you have stock wheels, you're not gonna see this. You're gonna have to jack the car up and then do this. I'll show you how to do that after. With aftermarket wheels, it's gonna be easy. Look, this is me from the future too. I wanna mention that a lot of these axle nuts, they get divoted in. This one's not notched in. It was notched in, I unnotched it. They get notched in, right? So if yours is notched in, you just get a flathead screwdriver, put it in the notch, put the flathead in the notch, and just hammer the head of the flathead, and it'll unnotch it. Or if you have an impact wrench or something, just zip it off, and usually it'll just fucking handle it. But if not, just unnotch it with the flathead in there, right? Hammer the head of the flathead, and it'll push the notch back out, and then this doesn't have any thread. There's no thread on this part. This is on the Civic, but I'm just showing you as an example, you know, because this one's more notched, you know. You can see that they notched it and I unnotched it. You don't need to notch these. Obviously Honda wants you to, but you don't need to. But if you don't notch them, put them on fucking tight. Use the breaker bar to don't overdo it, but put it on pretty fucking tight, right? So that's just in case. I'm not gonna, when I put this back on this car, when I put the axle nut back on and tighten it, I'm not gonna notch it. So you'll see that. It's also worth mentioning that on these Civics, it's a 32 socket, right? The Civic is a 32 socket. The RSX, I don't know why the fuck this is open. What the fuck? I don't know why that's open. For the RSX, it's a 36. This is a 36, the size. So just so you know. We got our breaker bar. Stick it in there, counterclockwise. There we go. Simple. And if you don't have aftermarket wheels, I'll show you how to do it right now. Gonna take the lug nuts off. Gonna use the 19 millimeter. You might need a key if you have special lug nuts, but I don't. Stick the 19 mil in there, crack them. Probably use the breaker bar. Crack all 5 of them, or four or 5, whatever you have, depending on the car. Zigzag if you can help it. If you can do that, do zigzag, it's better. This guy, it's number 3, 4, number 5. There we go. You just want to make sure they're all loose, because if you jack up the wheel and then it's not loose, you're gonna have to drop that shit back down because the wheel's gonna keep spinning. You know, I don't have to explain how to take off a lug nut. Hopefully you know how to do that already. Just make sure they're all loose. It'll be straight. So now we got all of them loose, right? There. Now we got all of them loose, and we got the axle nut loose, so now we could jack up the car. Careful not to get the edge of the pinch weld where the fender meets the pinch weld. Like, stay away from that, because I've bent my fender on that car. On that car, I've already bent my fender by putting the jack stand too close. Or the jack too close to the edge of the pinch weld. So just be mindful of that, I guess. So I'll put the jack stand on the left and keep the jack on the right. Set it up. That's what I was talking about right here. Kind of want to, I stay away from this whole area now. I just mainly stay over here. If you're cool like me, you're gonna have the whole car, the side of the car fucking up because you got coilovers, but that's fine. And then you just lower it slowly. Probably get away from the car, just slowly lower it. Whoops. That's fine. And then we're gonna use this jack a little bit later, so just drop it all down, keep it on the jack stand. Alright, so I got all the lug nuts off, so then you just take the wheel off, throw it over to the side. And now here's what you're gonna do if you don't have access to that axle nut till you take the wheel off, right? You could either step on the brake, have your friend step on the brakes so that this won't move, right? Or you could do this. Probably you want a flathead, but I'm just showing you, you know, or maybe something a little thicker, but I'm just showing you as an example. You got this little, I don't know what this access port is for, but maybe it's for this. There's like these ridges or divots in the rotor. Now check this out. You put the screwdriver there. Now it's not gonna move, right? Oh, well, it came out. Maybe you want a thicker one, you know, but you get the idea. You could stick this in. It's gonna allow it to not move. And then you can turn this, you could put torque on this to turn this and break it without moving the fucking rotor. So that took me a while to fucking learn. Stupid, but I never noticed that until later on. That'll save you a lot of time if you have stock wheels. But if not, it's easier just to do it with the car on the ground, you know, break the axle nut. That's the easiest way if you have aftermarket wheels. So next we're gonna work on getting these two guys broken. It's a 22 on this side, I believe, and a 19 on that side, I believe. So I've done this enough times without the jack to know that it's just easier to use the fucking jack. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna separate the knuckle from the strut. This is my coilover, but whatever you have, right? Separate the knuckle from the strut, and then the knuckle's gonna just sag, right? And your lower control arm's gonna be the ones, that bolt and that bolt, or those two bushings, this bushing and this bushing are gonna be the ones that are gonna be flexing and stuff, you know? It's just gonna sag down. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just leave it on the jack. So, but make sure you have your axle nut cracked before you do this, all right? Because it needs to be loose already. Now, when we loosen these up, I have a feeling that this is gonna be, look, this is already tense. This is my ABS sensor right here. It's 10 millimeter down there, over here. There's a 10 millimeter right there. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take this ABS sensor off. I think the brake line is gonna be okay, but we could take the brake line off too, that's fine. So the brake line and the ABS sensor, I'm gonna remove them and then we'll take these off. All right, so check it out. Now we got these loose. This one and this one is just hanging. I would suggest leaving the bolts in there. This bolt I left in there screwed in, and this one I left screwed in so I don't lose it. Now we're gonna work on these ones right here. Now I just cracked both of them because I can't show you with two hands. I could try, but basically what you're gonna want to do is hold this one, right? Hold the 22. It's gonna be a 22 on this side and a 19 on this side. At least that's how mine are stock. I don't know if you have if they're changed or whatever, but you hold this one and then you crack this one like this. You gotta hold that nut in place. That guy right there. These nuts, you gotta hold them in place, and then just loosen them up, right? And once we loosen them up, you just want to crack them, honestly, because it's going to take forever to use the wrench to take it out, right? So just crack them, right? Once they're nice and loose, leave the wrench there, and you can get the 19. You can get the 19 that you used for the wheels. Stick it onto your ratchet. Just ratchet away. Just ratchet to your heart's content, you know? Get these bad boys off. And once both of them come off, you're going to see the knuckle's going to slip down, so just prepare for it. I don't have the jack ready to catch it. It's fine, like it's not just gonna flop down, but you'll see when you take the bolts out, it is gonna like sag down, and then you could just use the jack after if you want, you know. You'll see, it's not too complicated. Now I already have this axle nut pretty loose. I'm gonna take it all the way out, right? Because what's gonna happen is that the spindle's gonna want to just come out of the knuckle, right? Once you look, it's not in there by anything. I mean, you can't, it's not going to go back because the axle is connected to the transmission, you know, but once we loosen up the knuckle and separate it from the strut, this is going to just fall back. Once this is loose enough, by the way, you just spin these off. Just take these off, right? And then what we're going to do, you could tap these guys out, or they'll come out. I'll show you right now. You just kind of wiggle the knuckle around. If you wiggle the knuckle up and down, I only have one hand, so I can't really do it, but if you wiggle the knuckle around with your hand like this, you wiggle it up and down, then you can get these bolts out, or you could just tap them out with the hammer if you want. But you gotta be careful with these threads, you know. So I wouldn't really suggest that. In fact, since I just have one hand, maybe we could just take the pressure off with the jack, you know. Make sure it's tight, and make sure with the jack you're not catching the fucking ball joint. Don't do that. The ball joint's over here in the edge, so use the jack in the middle of the control arm, you know, like towards the edge, but not at the ball joint, kind of like that, you know. We're gonna take some pressure off, and that might help us to look. One of them already came out, and it's just I'm not lifting it, I'm just taking the pressure off. Let's see if the other one comes out. So I'm just gonna get it out because I only have one hand, so I gotta stop the recording. But you kind of just mess around with the jack, or move the knuckle, you know, move it back and forth. Look, it's moving a lot. I thought I could take it out, kind of wiggling it, but yeah, I'll show you after I take it out. I just wiggled it back and forth like that with one hand, and then the other hand I just grabbed the nut, and now it's out. Look, now it's just sagging, right? It's just fucking sagging. So what you want to do is we're gonna tap this guy out. You kind of want to be careful. I'm gonna use this little sledgehammer. So what I'm gonna do is, does this fit like this? There, like that. At least give it some surface. Don't just smack it, just tap it. But I don't want to fuck up the spindle, so just. All right, my bad, boys. So what was happening was I had the fucking knuckle still attached to the strut. You need to separate it. And now I got some space. There's some space over here, right? So then now I could tap it away because the axle's still in the transmission. So you just gotta give it some space. Just pull the knuckle away, right? It'll tap out. There's no more gap there, right? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that axle nut out and then I'm gonna push it out the rest of the way. This guy was fucking stuck. Usually they come out easier. So what you can do is like shake it, and I dropped the jack too. See, I dropped the jack so it's sagging more and it's moving away from the transmission, right? You don't want to separate the CV joints in the boots though. I don't really know how it works, but just don't fucking pull the axle too much, or else this one's broken already, but still, don't pull the axle too much, or else you're gonna separate the CV ball joint in there, and there's no, you can't. I don't know how to fucking fix that. You don't want to do that. So this guy's pretty much out now, right? So what we're gonna do is get more room, get more space, lower this. Damn, I have it pretty low. And this should just pop out. Look, you could just take it out like that. And now the only thing connecting the axle, right, it's fucking ABS sensor. This shit don't even work. Fucking RSX. Now all we have to do, you see in here, this is the driver's side, right? So if you're on the passenger side, you're gonna have an intermediate shaft after your axle, okay? But it's basically the same shit. You're just gonna pop the axle away from the transmission. Or on the other side, you pop the axle away from the intermediate shaft. The intermediate shaft stays. But on this side, we have no intermediate shaft. It's just axle and transmission. Simple. There's like this fucking cylinder in here, right? So you could fit your pry bar. You fit your pry bar like right under there and just pry. So I'll show you that right now. All right, boys. The problem is that I don't have enough space to get the fucking pry bar in here. It keeps hitting the ground. So what I'm gonna do is jack up the car higher. But before I did that, I jacked up the other side of the car because I don't want it to tip over, because it was already pretty precarious the way that it was because of the coilovers. So I put this side up so that I can get the other side higher. So let's do that. I forgot about this too, but you gotta put your hood up in the service position here, not the standard position. You gotta put it in the service position right here so that people know that you're fucking working. Stay the fuck out of the way. Yeah, right. All right, fucking dude, shut the fuck up. All right, my bad, boys. So I popped the axle out by accident because I was testing if the pry bar fit. I just built this car back, so that's why it was easy for me to get the axle out, but sometimes they get fucking stuck. So what I did was I jacked the car higher, right? This shouldn't happen to you, but I'm on the street, so that's why I didn't want to jack the car up too high, but just as high as you need, right? I'm putting the pry bar, right, the edge of it, right at the edge of where the transmission meets the axle. There's a little, like this cup, right? This cylinder, and there's space in between, right? So what you do, you get the pry bar, you put it in between there, it's pretty tight, okay? And then you just pry. You just pry, and it's gonna be really hard, and it might get stuck. The pry bar might get stuck to the transmission and the axle. In that case, you could kick the pry bar that way, you know, use your legs for as much leverage as you need, but just pry. It'll pop out, right? It pops out. That's all you do is just pry. And then once it's out, you can tell it's out because there's like a bigger gap, right? Just wiggle it, and it'll come out. I know you might not believe me, but there, she's out. And see, it's just like spindles with like this, the spindles with the smooth side of the metal. All of this sits inside the transmission, this whole thing. So you just get the pry bar kind of like right there. This sits inside the transmission too. It's like a whole, see, it's like that's where the spindle sits, and this is where that divot sits, where the axle seal is. This is where that divot sits. But there's like a little space for you to be able to put the pry bar and pry out. And that's the hardest part, because sometimes they get fucking stuck. If you've had your axle for 100,000 miles on there, yeah, no shit, it's gonna get fucking stuck. So now let's get the new one. I'll show you how to put it in. All right, boys, I want to show you something. I got an EP3 axle and an RSX axle, okay? The EP3 axle, right, is gonna have a smaller axle nut. This one should be the one. I think this one's smaller, right? It's a 32. Fuck. The RSX axle is the same shit. They look exactly the same. The only difference is this is a 36. I don't know if you can tell, but this is a bigger nut. So this is the RSX axle. So that's why it's the same fucking process for this car and for this car and for any 7th gen Civic. I don't know. I don't see any right now, but the Civics use the smaller axles, the smaller axle nut, right? And the RSX uses the bigger axle nut. The spindle is the only difference, just the spindle. Everything else is the same. So just make sure that you get the right one for your application, for your needs. So now we're gonna put this motherfucker in. You always wanna make sure you have a safe working environment. No cars flying by you, 60 miles an hour, you know? You don't really want that. This looks pretty safe, so let's get back to work. Now, normally you're gonna wanna put some kind of fucking lubricant on the axle, okay? I don't happen to have any right now, and I'm just a lazy motherfucker, so we're just gonna send it as is. It'll be fine. But look, don't follow everything I do. Just fucking get the lubricant, whatever the fuck, grease or whatever, put it on both sides a little bit, and then you should be good. So this side with the cup is the side that goes on to the transmission. If you have if you're doing the passenger side, this is gonna look female. It's gonna have like a cup, and instead of this thing sticking out, it's gonna have like a female port, and that's where the intermediate shaft connects to. But for this, it's just the driver's side is just male, and it connects right into the transmission. Look, so all I did was line up the spindles into the transmission, so it's not in there, it's just lined up, okay? So it's sitting in there, and all you're gonna do, right, so you can't pull these motherfuckers out. You're gonna separate the CV axle, the CV joint. But what you can do is just push them in. Make sure it goes in. Don't beat on it too hard, you know, but make sure it goes in. And then you could feel over here, it's not in because this, I can still feel like all this, right? So I'm gonna use both hands, and I'm just gonna smack that motherfucker in. Let's see if I can get it. The fucking phone fell. But there was that second time, there was like a second noise where it was like, dun-dun, and it went in, and it bottomed out on the transmission. So I could feel now there's no gap or anything. I just feel the end of the cup to the beginning of the transmission. Okay, that's what you want to feel. You don't want to feel none of this bullshit. You don't want to feel any of this bullshit. It's just the end of the cup to the beginning of the transmission. This is inside the transmission, okay? So now this guy's in, so guess what? It's this side. Now we just gotta fucking... See, you don't need the jack to... Don't be afraid of the ball joint. I've never had these boots tear. If they do, then probably it was old anyways. And this ball joint's pretty old, and it's still hanging on, so... And look, you can do the ball joint too if you wanted to, because you see you have this off already. You just take this shit off, and probably take your brakes off. You take the caliper bracket bolts, these two guys, and take this castle nut and smack this bad boy out of the LCA. And then you could take this to a shop, right? Fucking shop over there, right? You just take it to the shop and have them press in a new ball joint if you want to, but I'm not fucking doing that. So it looks like this has an axle seal, and I want to make sure that I'm pretty confused right now because I'm looking for this is the new seal, right? But there's no seal here. I don't know if these just didn't have a fucking seal, my dumbass. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I don't see a seal here, and I don't see a seal in here unless I'm tripping. I don't see one. It's all metal. It's a little greased up in here, so that's good. But I don't know what the fuck is going on. You just want to make sure that sometimes these get stuck in here, so just take it out, right? Make sure there's nothing in there. And then that this has this little seal right there. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I can't find my fucking axle, the other side of the hub seal, but whatever the fuck. I don't know. This is the right way to put in. This one's correct. This one was fucked up, I guess. But so now we just kind of like that. You see how this is in there now? So the spindle, the spindle on this side has to kind of line up with the hub right here. So now I have this guy in there, right? But he's not in there because this is too far. So what I'm gonna do is I don't want this to go too far, right? So I'm gonna kind of take this out, right? And I'm gonna get my jack ready. This is where we use the jack. We're gonna put the jack underneath this, right? And lift this back up so that these will kind of line up in time, but at least we don't want the axle to separate out of the fucking CV joint, you know? So probably get away from don't fucking be under the car when you release the jack, but I'm lazy. Just gonna release the jack like that. We're gonna bring it over here. So you kind of just want to line this up and get this spindle to poke out. You could use the jack to support this because you're gonna have to use both hands and pick up the knuckle. You could do it like that. Pick up the knuckle with both hands, wiggle it line the axle up and wiggle it in. But the problem is that the axle's not gonna fucking line up easily. There's like on the spindle, this is thread right here, but on the other side, fucking dude, loud as fuck. On the other side of the thread, there's like on the spindle, it has like these lines that need to line up with the hub. So the axle will line up with the hub and then it'll all turn as one. If you grab the axle back here, this is it's all turning, it's all lined up. If it's not going in, right? If the spindle refuses to go into the hub, just wiggle this around until it slides into place because it's just not lined up. Once it's in, look, well, I can't push it out because it's jacked up, but you just need a few threads. And then all you're gonna do is you get your new axle nut, just get a couple threads on there. Fuck, I gotta actually look at it, not look at the camera. Get a couple threads on there, and this will do it the rest of the way. You could just screw this on, right? And the spindle will pull through the hub with the axle nut, right? So just worry about getting a couple threads through and getting that axle nut on. And look, this isn't far enough, it's bottomed out, but I'm telling you, if we use the fucking the ratchet, it'll pull this through. Now that this guy's in, right? Now that he's in and this is in, now we got to do these. So I would suggest just making sure that this is loose again, that it's not gonna fuck anything up. These are loose, right, out of the way. And now let's get these lined up. So hopefully you guys were able to see that, but you could just move this coilover back and forth, or your strut, whatever the fuck, back and forth, and have this lined up. These will move side to side. This moves freely, and this one moves back and forth like this, right? So you just get the camber, like the angle correct, and these will both line up. And now they're lined up. Easy peasy. All we do is just toss these on, and you're almost, if you've gotten this far, you're almost fucking done. The axle's already pretty much done. You just put everything back together, right? If you don't have ABS, you don't have to fucking worry about this shit. And if you don't use the brake line nut, you don't gotta worry about this shit either. But if you're like me, my ABS doesn't even fucking work, but you put the ABS back. You can put it back right now, and you could make sure that this goes underneath and this goes over. I think that's how it goes. And make sure that this isn't all tangled up and shit. Like, it's not all twisted, or else you won't be able to do it. But it stayed pretty straight, so we'll toss it on. So now you can move the jack, right? Move the jack out over here. And then also I'm gonna tighten up this axle nut right now. Go get go get the ratchet and tighten up this axle nut, but not just hand tight, not completely tight. We're just gonna bring the spindle through the hub. Just get your ratchet, your tool. Get the tool. Then you're gonna want to just put it to tight. Tighten this as far as you can go. This is gonna move a little bit, but it's all right. Just get it nice and snug, and look at that. We got this poking through. My fucking phone died, so I had to fucking put everything away and go back inside to charge it. Stupid shit. So where the fuck were we? We're gonna tighten these up, right? These two, they just needed to be tightened, and then these two as well just need to be tightened. The sensors, the ABS sensor and brake line right here need to be tightened, and then these need to be tightened. Make sure to get these motherfuckers tight, because this is gonna be, you don't want this shit to come off while you're driving. I'm going the fucking wrong way. You don't want this shit to come off while you're driving, you know? So just you don't have to overdo it, you know, because you're gonna take it off one day probably, but just make sure it's fucking tight. You don't want that to come off or get loose or none of that shit. So just make sure it's tight. For the bottom one, it might be easier to use the ratchet with the extension. It doesn't really matter. But also keep in mind that people say you gotta get in alignment every time you take these strap bolts off. Every time you take the... Shut the fuck up, bro. I'm fucking GTI. Every time you take the strut bolts off, you gotta get in alignment. That's what they say. Am I gonna do that? Probably not. The car needs an alignment anyway, so I'll probably go do it. But I've taken them off, put them back on without an alignment. You're fucking fine, but I mean, just throw it out there. Don't say I didn't say it. All right, so check it out. We got this one tight, this one tight. Fucking make sure you get, it's just like 4 bolts that we took off. So just double check that you did that shit. This one is like hand tight, you know? We're gonna finish tightening it on the floor because I have the aftermarket wheels with the cap. The cap's missing, but you could pop this cap off on your aftermarket wheels, most of them, and just do the tool right there. But if you don't have that, just make sure to put the screwdriver right here and then finish tightening it up. Or the better option is have a friend hop in the car, push the brakes, and then tighten this bitch up. So make sure that this is tight, but this is the last thing we're gonna do after we put it on the ground. So now let's get the wheel back on. This should go without being said, but just in case, I don't know who's watching this, just make sure that I got my knees kind of holding the wheel so it doesn't move so easily. Just make sure it's like hand tight, right? And I'm going in a crisscross pattern so that the wheel gets like put on the hub flat, like nice and flat, nice and even, right? This fucking guy, suck a dick. So make sure that these get on nice and even. Look at, there's a lot of looseness in this one. Fucking hell. They all tend to get more loose when you tighten up the other ones, you know? So just make sure they're nice and tight. And then again, we want it to be nice and even. So there, that's good. We'll do this one next. That's good. Just hand tight, because we'll finish tightening it on the floor, obviously. There, that's good. It's all 5 of them. But you just want to make sure that it's flush on the hub. You don't want to do all this shit and then fuck up the wheel. Easy shit, you know? So now we're gonna drop the car down. I'm sure that's not rocket science, so I'll drop it down and we'll finish tightening everything up. One side, the other side. Boom. Low profile jack for all your needs. Now we're gonna make sure that this is nice and tight. This feels pretty tight. Oh, there we go. It feels pretty tight, so just tighten it up with the ratchet. And then what we're gonna do, this feels pretty good. So what we're gonna do is tighten it up with the breaker bar, just nice and snug. Again, it's a breaker bar, it's not meant to tighten, so you don't want to fucking overdo it, but it's important. It's the axle nut, you know? So look, I'm putting good amount of pressure, but not just good amount of pressure, and that boy's tight. That guy ain't gonna come off. He's tight. Obviously, don't forget to tighten your lug nuts. And there you go. That should be everything. So I'm gonna put this shit away. We're gonna do a little test drive, just back and forth right here, and then just make sure it's good, make sure it's not clicking or the wheel's not shaking or anything, and you should be good. Let's see. Make sure I did it right. Whoo! She's purring. But that's not what we did. I thought thought I left the jack outside, but I already put it away. Just double checking. Ooh, forward. Okay, something just creaked, so maybe my axle wasn't the fucking problem. I don't know, but whatever. It was creaking on turns, like turning and stuff. It was creaking. So yeah, it's still making noise. I don't know what the fuck that noise is, but I don't know. I'm still having some problems, but I hope my axle was bad, but whatever. It's been pretty old, so it's time to change anyways. Maybe my coilovers are really fucking old, so that's probably what's going on here. Anyways, that's how you change axle. Everything's good. It rolls around fine, you know. The creaking is, again, probably my coilover or something. There's something different going on, but that is not difficult. I would say changing a coilover is fucking harder than changing an axle. Or changing all 4 coilovers is gonna be harder than changing an axle. Obviously, shut off the car. I'm not promoting any beverages while driving, but give yourself a cheers for a job well done, and yeah, and that's about it.